Alright, so for all you dingleberries out there in the world that's doing a 3.9 to 5.2 swap, like what I'm doing. Alright, this is a 3.9 flywheel. Alright, that will work on the 5.2. Alright, it will not work for 5.9 because 5.9 is balanced differently on the crank assembly. But, here's what I found out. Rather than spending that $150, $200, $300 for the flywheel for a 5.2 specifically, take the tone ring off. The tone ring has these little notches right here. And what that does is the crank position sensor picks it up and reads your cylinders. Alright. As you can see here, I've done taking it off. It's a little dusty because it's been a few years since I've been in the process of doing it because I've had other things going on. But you can take this flex plate that come off of an automatic 5.2, which has the 8 notches that the crank position sensor needs to read each cylinder. You can actually take this thing here, set it down on your flywheel, on your 3.9 flywheel, line up your holes, whatever. I know it ain't lined up, but you get the point. The only thing you're going to need is longer bolts, because that's a 96 5.2. A lot of people are stickling about those. Alright, the only thing you really need to do is change your fuel injection rail and change it over to where it has the pressure regulator on it for the 2 lines if you got a fuel return, because that 96 is going into that 92. Anyways, the point is, if you're worried about the clearances on your crankshaft, don't worry about it because it'll work. You just need to get longer bolts to put on there, to put through the holes to make the flex plate and all bolt onto your crank. And some of you may be worried about starter clearances. That doesn't matter, it'll still work. Essentially, when the starter jumps out, it jumps all the way to the back. The pinion in it jumps all the way up. The back up reaches to here. I mean the tip up, not the back up. So when it jumps now with the flywheel out, it's going to come out to the center of it. I'm doing this at the wrong angle, but anyways, you get the point. The starter will still work. Alright, and for all of you that's wondering about a 5.2 clutch assembly, if you're doing a manual swap, which mine's already manual, so I'm not worried about it, but 94 to 96, 3.9, 5.2, and 5.9, the flywheels will work. You can use, if you're doing a 5.2 automatic to 5.9 manual transmission, you can use the you gotta swap out the flex plate and all that good stuff. Alright, you could possibly use the 3.9, not particularly sure, but I do know if you use a standard 318 flywheel, you can take it and get it balanced to fit the 5.9. Alright, and to take this off, the easiest way of doing it is, don't know if you can see that, but there's burn marks right here on the corners of it. You just get your soldering torch or cutting torch, whatever. Don't cut the damn thing off because you're going to mess it up, but we're going to heat it up in these points on the notches. And you're going to bump it a little at a time. And what it'll do is it makes the metal expand. Heat expands metal, coldness shrinks it. And what it's going to do is when you bump it, it's going to bump it off. It'll make it come off of these. Now, if you choose to keep the notches on there, you know, or whatever, if you decide you need to swap it back, put it back on, the easiest way of doing it is doing it like if you ever replace flywheel ring teeth. If you got to replace just the teeth and you don't want to have to buy a whole new flywheel, you're going to take your rings, your teeth here, same thing is going to be for that. Stick these here in the oven, get them hot, put it on the lowest rack to closest to the bottom of the oven. Get them hot, and then it'll drop right onto your flywheel and let it cool. Same thing goes for the tone ring here. heat it up in the oven, and it'll drop right back down on there. The only thing you're going to have to do is, I'm not worried about it because I'm not going back to it, but if you ever need to, mark your spots before you take it off the first time. Mark where the notches are so you can put it back exactly the same way so the crank position sensor don't get thrown off when it's reading. Another thing is, you can use, as far as PCM, I've read on forums about it, you can use an automatic PCM on a standard with the same crank position sensor. Alright, on the rounds, the crank position sensor is 1/2 inch longer, so you have to use washers and space it up. Alright, so you're going to take and put washers under your automatic's crank position sensor and use your automatic PCM. Some of them have different connectors, which in my case, mine don't. I can use the same crank position sensor off an automatic on mine. Alright, I got an automatic PCM because that's all that I could find, and it's off of a Jeep 318. All the pinouts and all that stuff's the same. Some of you is wondering what pinout is what on the PCM for the injector 7 and 8. Alright, injector 7 is pin 17, injector 8 is pin 18. On automatic should be 2 little rubber plug things in the back of the PCM where those lines are not being used. The easiest thing to do is go find you just some random connector, snatch the pin out of it, keep the wire off of it without tearing it up, and just tie it into your V6's harness, which isn't hard to do. You just take your pins you pulled out of the other one and slide it into what you got, and it'll all be plug and play from there. Alright, well this is all. Figured I'd try to clear up a couple questions.